Hip politics, baby.
And counting down to 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Politics Podcast. What's up to all our hip politics fans and listeners out in the world? We got one today. We got one. That's what we're gonna start off there before we get to our guests. It's your boy Mr. Cameron Calvin, aka Mr. Hip Politics, aka 216 to the 202, aka Mr. Communicator of Color, aka Mr. DC. And then to my far
he's not AKA.
And to my far right, you repping hard today, Mike.
It's the Alpha's Founders Day today, so I was hating.
Man, we got alpha listeners. But anyways, to my far right, I got my co-host, aka my co-pilot, Mr. Michael McQuarrie, aka the Mayor of Capitol Hill, aka DC Nuke 90, aka your hair's getting long, bro.
I know. I said I wasn't gonna lock. Now I'm about to lock.
Yeah, we back. We in season 2 of the Hip Politics Podcast. Bigger and better things. We're now on more networks, got more listeners. We've been traveling a little bit, but like I said, we got one today. We got royalty, music royalty. Low key, he's just American, like you, human royalty. Like this man comes from one of the most legendary families we know of in music. But he has his own legacy. You gotta kind of like has a 3-part legacy where he's been selling millions of records around the world, around the country. He's back now with 2 fire singles. He's seen a lot, done a lot. He's, like I said, he's from music royalty, from the Jackson family. Right in our center, we've got TJ Jackson. What's up, TJ?
What's
How
up,
you
fellas?
Doing? Can I call you TJ?
You can call me TJ. That's perfect.
Yeah.
What an introduction, too. So thank you.
TJ Jackson. For all those that know, so we got, hip hop, just real quick, hip politics, hip hop. Jay-Z is actually just turning 50 this week.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about Jay-Z being ultra relevant, but he's 50, and then you got Lil Pump who's 18, 19, Gucci Gang, and then, or Dr. Dre's almost 60. So the hip hop generation is literally more like 3 or 4 generations spread into one. So some people, if you don't know who TJ Jackson is, he's from the legendary Jackson family. Your father's Tito Jackson.
That's correct.
One of the Jackson 5. Funny thing, I always remember Tito growing up just because he had the most unique name. He's the nephew of legendary Michael Jackson. He's a phenomenal R&B and soul singer. I would say R&B and soul because I feel a little bit of both.
All right, I like that.
He also has an amazing legacy. You were a member of the 3T group, which is multi-platinum selling around the world, and that was. Correct me. Was that your cousins or brothers?
That's my bros. That's my 2 older brothers. So 2 older brothers and myself.
Where they were selling out. They were selling out arenas all around the country, and then definitely internationally in Europe and countries and continents around the globe. And now you're back, solo dolo.
That's it.
Solo dolo with 2, like I said, 2 hot fire singles. Got the "I Don't Deserve This" and Insomnia. Which I think you almost need to be 16 or 17 to watch that video on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, it did get banned. So yeah.
Oh, so is this the new version? Because I caught it on YouTube today.
No. The I should say the ad. Yeah, try to run some ads. Then YouTube wasn't having it. So
YouTube hates sometimes.
Yeah, it wasn't too much, but I guess it was too much.
I got it. Well, so we have TJ Jackson here live in the studio in Washington D.C. in the district. You're a California native, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, fellas.
What brings you to D.C.?
Just out here doing some press. I got in last night.
It's a good place to come, but you got that man Donald Trump that's taking all the press right now.
I know. But, I heard about that.
No, but and then you're out promoting. You're out kind of promoting your two new singles.
Correct.
With the album or EP coming soon.
EP is going to be dropping at the first quarter of next year, of the top of 2020, and then I do got an album coming out probably towards the end of 2020. So I got a lot of
So it's
music
gonna be
coming
the
out.
year of the Jackson, year of the TJ. Okay.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'll be putting in my work. I
put
took
in-
some time off, so I'm ready.
Well, about that, I want to catch us up to where you're at right now, and then get into the singles. But first, I'd be remiss, like you have, like I said, so much history you've seen, so much history you've been a part of, and being part of one of the most legendary legendary legacies that there is in all of entertainment and music. Let me start early. What was your first memory, or one of your earliest memories of saying, like, wow, I'm in a different place, like I am around different things, I see music? Like, what was your first memory that you, because that I can only imagine what it's like growing up in that kind of spotlight.
It took me a while to really realize the impact my family had. Looking back, I remember being on school nights, being backstage after concerts, not only my family's concerts, but, Diana Ross concert or Kool and the Gang concert, and just seeing a performance, falling asleep because I'm so young, 6, 7 years old, and then waking up, like, where am I? But then seeing the person I just saw performing, talking to my father and laughing, but I'm thinking it's normal, so it never really did anything to me. And it wasn't until my mid-teens that I realized. I mean, I knew obviously who my family was, but that's when I started to really realize the impact my family had, because my family was very humble and downplayed everything. So it wasn't until quite a bit later.
When you say quite a bit, were you like in high school? No.
Yeah, I mean, I knew who people were. I knew my uncle had a song or an album called Thriller that was doing things. I knew that.
An album.
Yeah, I knew that. But did I know that everybody and their grandparents were working with it? I didn't know that. So it wasn't until I was older. My family never said, this broke this record and this did that. That wasn't the way they did. I think that was their goals and ambition, but they didn't ever speak it to us. They just always told us, I'm working and I'm trying to do the best I can, and that's something that we try to do the best we can.
Well, that being some of the best you can, you end up taking that mantle, you and your brothers. When was the first time you realized, like, you could sing, and then, like, hey, I want to sing?
So that's probably another early memory. I remember being 6, 7, rehearsing every day. My brothers, the three of us, we'd be right after school. We'd drop our bags and go to our little room and be a band. I was on drums. My brother Taj was on the keyboard, and Terrell was on the guitar. So we'd rehearse for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours every day. And we started to make some noise and started to sound all right. And then we had a talent show, and our whole family was in the crowd. It was just a family talent show with the second generation. And then when we performed, seeing the response, from Uncle Michael, and Auntie LaToya, and just seeing them so giddy and happy and proud of us, I think that was the first time we were like, let's go for it.
That's kind of funny when you say Uncle Michael, or you say Auntie LaToya, and people who are watching, and because they're your family, you don't realize the impact of, like, imagine anybody else was in a talent show, and those are people watching you, and they happy, but you just got that genuine, like, these are my people I look up to because these are my family.
It's true. It's true. I mean, like, if someone says Michael Jackson, I hear Uncle Michael, and I think of something completely different. I ain't thinking about the moonwalk. I ain't thinking about gloves. I ain't thinking of that. I'm thinking of jokes, him laughing and stories he told, and being at a toy shop and cleaning up the toy store. That's what I think about.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy. And that's when that's just a surreal experience. And then, how did you know? Well, I guess that gave you the energy as a child, but how did you all know, like, oh, we're good? Did the family coalesce around you? And then you're saying, like, all right, because to form the actual formal band and go out, like, you guys.
We were hard on ourselves, and I don't think we ever thought we were good, to be honest. We'd perform, and, we'd critique ourselves. And, for instance, perfect example, when our first song came out, It shot, especially in the UK. It did did really well here in the States. It sold over 1 million singles. And then we went to the UK and debuted at 4. And went up to 3, and then went up to 2 and stayed 3 weeks at number 2, but never made it to number 1 in the UK. And I remember we were so disappointed because our Uncle Michael just had a number 1 song like a month before in the UK. And we were like, dang, we're failing. That was our mentality. But that was our very first song. And I'll never forget it. He basically said, your first single is doing amazing. He had to support us and let it remind us that we are doing big things. And another example, we are doing an arena show, and I think it was in Amsterdam, and a sold-out show, and we did it well, and it was a great response. And then the next day, or a couple days later, Michael's in a stadium at the same city doing a stadium show.
Right.
And
hold up, you can't check yourself against Michael Jackson.
See, but you're saying it right. But at the time, that's all we were around, so that's what we're thinking. What true success is. So we always kind of felt like we weren't there yet, but looking back, we did all right, and I'm proud of it.
Kept a high bar.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm a fan of the family.
Thank you, man.
I probably date myself, but when I found out we were interviewing you, 2300 Jackson Street, one of my favorite songs came out.
It's great, right?
And I'm a fan of one of your aunts, and it's one that people don't really talk about is Rebe.
Okay.
And because I love Centipede. So I love it. What kind of influence were your aunts on you?
They're my whole family's an influence. Yeah. Really. My whole family, and Auntie Latoya in particular has always been so supportive of me, not only as an artist but as a person, and that's what I love. She's always been supportive and checking on me and my kids. When there's a birthday, she's checking in and calling and saying happy birthday, and she's been the one to me that's been just amazingly supportive and that aunt that's always been just full of love.
Right.
So.
Right. What's that one thing about you that we don't know, that a lot of people don't know?
One thing that you don't know is that I'm a real estate broker, and I have I bought my first home at 18, and I remember.
Hold on. I'm gonna let you keep going.
Yeah.
You from a superstar family. You find out you could sing too. So you right into the family business. Platinum, multi-platinum, all this, and then you're like, on the side, I want to be a real estate broker?
So,
that's where the money is.
Yeah. and here's the thing. So as a 14-year-old, I'm in school, in a private school, and trying to figure out what else I want to do. And I'm looking up to Warren Buffett and, Bill Gates, and that's who I'm looking at, besides my family. And, so I'm like, and I love business. So I applied to Wharton School of Business, got accepted, but didn't go. My uncle was not happy. My Uncle Michael was not happy with that decision. But since I was a kid, I've always loved business, and I always thought it was very important to have a good business sense. I heard too many horror stories, being around this industry of bad business. So I was like, I'm gonna make sure I know what I'm doing, and that I can hold my own. So yeah, I since I was 16, I've always been into business.
Wow.
But yeah, so I was renting after my mother passed, or she was murdered when I was 16. I bought my first car. I was working, got my first car with my first check, and then was leasing a house, and it was, I think, like $3,500 a month. And I remember writing the check and saying, what am I doing? So I bought my first home the next year at 18, and I remember just signing, and not knowing what I was signing. And I said, this will be the last time I'm signing all these documents, and I'll have a clue what I'm doing. So within, I think it was 2 years, I got my real estate license, not intending to sell anything, but just to know.
Did you ever sell anything?
Have I, or did I? I have, but I don't do it like,
No, I mean even back then, or just...
No, well, I interesting enough, I really just got it for my own self and to help my family and close friends. And the very first transaction I did was actually Kourtney Kardashian, because I know the family well, and she asked, she needed some help. So, but yeah,
that actually makes a lot of sense, because you can... I read that, and I heard you talk about like you dated Kim
Mm-hmm.
Kardashian when you were in
Mm-hmm.
high school, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's normalized, having lived out in LA before, like I can only imagine it's normalized that all right, I'm gonna go to my friend or somebody I know and trust to buy or sell a house,
Yeah.
and you just happen to have
Well,
friends.
And she was in her own little situation because she got some, her father had passed and properly, in my opinion, left help for her to start her life. Because in California, it's hard. It's hard to get on your feet, and make that move and purchase a property. So she reached out and I was able to help her. And, and I didn't do anything for a long time, but here and there, some stuff for myself, some stuff for some family, but nothing serious. Until about 3 years ago, I partnered with a lifelong friend who does it 100%, 24/7. And, I started my own brokerage with him, and it's been great. So I just think it's important to not only have one career, but to, especially in today's time, you could do it all, to have a second and maybe even a third thing that's going on. That way you can balance yourself and you can retire from one and keep other things going.
The hustle never stops.
The hustle, and here's another thing, because, think about an athlete, after they retire at 35, 40, forget the financials, the struggle that may come or the stoppage of money, but there's also a mental hurdle that they have to overcome if 100% of their life is one thing. So I found that the ones who are most balanced, or at least transition to that balance, are the ones who are mentally the strongest as well and healthiest. So whatever happens in music, I don't want it to define myself mentally, financially, but more importantly, mentally. So for me, it's important to have different things going on. It kind of just balances everything.
Well, to that point, about that balance, about that balance.
You all right?
Yeah. No, he just was scratching the good. These are good mics, man.
My bad.
No, sorry. We can joke around a little bit too.
I like it.
About that balance, and you mentioned like some really tragic, obviously, events and being in the spotlight. What are some lessons from a person who came into fame early, being around some super fame in your family? You've gone through some very tragic, tragic events. I mean, with the loss of your mother.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, the loss of your uncle.
Yeah.
And then also touring the world, and I know the pressure. I've seen the pressure that can build adults, let alone young kids, as they're touring, music, fans, pulled every which way. Like you said, you had a number 2 single in UK and thinking mentally like, hey, we didn't make it. Oh, we sold out an arena and thinking we not make it. What are some of the one of the biggest lessons you've learned? Because I think that's one of the advantages of having Tito Jackson being your dad and having Jermaine and all the Jacksons be your aunts and uncles, to like, hey, they've seen it both as children and transitioned into adult where in fame, and is more. So what are some of the biggest lessons coming out of that, or a really good lesson that you have kept that has kept you balanced?
I think you to slow down, make sure you enjoy the moment, make sure you respect not only other people, but what you're doing, what you're representing, where you're at, other cultures. And that's something that was big taught to us, respect. Respect of time, respect of everything. So I think that's helped me balance my whole entire life, let alone my career, just my whole life. Also, just be grateful. We all are, not just me and my family, but everyone listening now. We're all so blessed, and if you have that grateful mindset, everything can be dealt with. I think depression's on the rise, sadness is on the rise, and I think one thing that we're not getting enough of is gratitude, and to really realize how blessed each and every one of us are. There's people in this world that don't have half the things, or a quarter of the things, a tenth of the things that we have, that we take for granted. So I think the importance of respect, but also being grateful, will help keep you balanced.
Wow. Yeah. Well, to that about, did you have a question?
I mean, the podcast is called Hip Politics.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the hip hop
Yeah,
part, but
I
let's
love
talk
it.
about the politics part.
Let's do it.
What are you all thinking about what's going on in D.C. outside of the Beltway?
I'm curious. Oh, that's a good
Outside of the
question.
Beltway, what?
Which means
Oh.
outside of D.C.
See,
So
then-
we
then-
know
then
the
we
Beltway
already-
is
Okay.
our highway, and just a big
So,
circle.
like,
Got
we,
you.
we call it either the bubble or the Beltway because that's what captures DC, but kind of the DMV area. But we're always curious. Yeah, I'm curious.
So
What's
you-
going on out there?
In politics,
Oh,
wise?
yeah. What do you all think about what's going on in D.C. with Congress?
The president
Okay.
is up for
and things like
impeachment,
that?
and just as you seeing the country, but also living in LA.
Yeah.
Like, what do you hear? What comes across your radar?
I've traveled a bit this year, and I personally feel like there's a bit more of a segregation vibe going, and it's saddening to me. It's disappointing. I feel there's a negativity, there's a divisiveness that's taking place, and I'm not the most political person. I don't spend as much time as probably the average person in politics, but the one thing I do wish Mr. Trump would do is be more of a leader and not be so demeaning to not, like I said, not only to people but places and cultures. It's a very nasty thing in my opinion. Again, I don't know about policy. I don't know what he's doing policy, so I'm not going to critique that. But I just think being a human and being a respectful human is so important, and I think the tone he set from that, the lack of that has really set us back a bit, and I'm hoping whoever comes next can do that. I wish someone like an Obama, who was that classy, well-spoken, and so embracive, can do that. And again, not even talking about politics. I don't care about politics. There's
Just
a
the
tone.
personality.
There's a tone and a
Tone.
personality that to me is equally, if not more important than what you do. You know what I mean? And that what I feel is what's lacking today.
Well, fast forward to that we feel the same way.
Yeah.
And kind of being I travel a lot, so I do get to go out and see it a little bit.
Yeah.
In that energy, I definitely agree in terms of it just feels like a little more polarized.
It is.
sometimes, and
you know what it is? It's an ego. And I think that's the problem. I read a great book recently called The Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. So he ain't paying me to say this, but go pick it up. It's a fantastic book, and I think that book would do Trump wonders, because it talks about what the ego and how it can really screw things up. And it's a perfect case in point. If you think you're better than everyone, then there's repercussions, and that's what is happening, in my opinion. I just think the ego is just far too gone, and we're dealing with all the repercussions.
yeah, we are, and it's kind of it's sad, but we got to keep pushing. That's kind of one of the reasons why we have a platform like this, and just to kind of to educate and bring people in. People I'm like, oh, I see T.J. Jackson, but they're going to get a little more information and get a little more widespread. But then also something that's big in that hip-hop, R&B, soul does music, I think that's one of the most things that bring people together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And then speaking of bringing people together, so we were listening to your song Insomnia.
Yes.
Started looking for your video.
Uh-oh.
So talk to me. Let's talk about that. Like moving to where you're at now. Like you've seen the heights of success for yourself. Been around it. You're still doing music.
Yeah.
And now you're independent, correct?
Yeah. And that was another decision I had to make because, I had opportunities to do it, with a bigger company and probably get more eyeballs or more ears. But I didn't want to lose control, and I'm completely in control of my ship. And that was, at this stage of my life, that was what's most important. About 5 years ago, I got to a point where I was thinking about what am I leaving behind? What mark am I making? Not only I hate saying it like this because it sounds egotistical, but what am I leaving behind in the world? But what am I leaving behind for my kids and my family? And that's what pushed me to do my music, and to do it the proper way and the way I want to do it, and so I am independent because that's the way to me that I have that complete control. It's harder, but at the same time it's more fulfilling, and to me it's worth it 100%.
When did you get that bug? Because I've seen you got the What I Don't Deserve is now out now.
Yeah.
And then you put out Insomnia about a couple months ago.
Correct.
You mentioned at the top of the show like a album at the end of next year, EP coming. Why now?
Well, I've been writing and recording and producing for other artists the whole time. I just never did it in the forefront. And I just got to a point where I had so many songs that I felt properly represented me and the sound I wanted to do, and that coupled with, like I said, just what am I going to do? What I want my great grandkids to look me up and just be able to see and hear things. So that was the big incentive. And in addition to that, I'm guardian for my uncle's kids, and I got my own kids, so there was a lot of time I committed to being a family person, and I always commit that time, but that was my focus and at the forefront. But now that most of the kids are getting older and I'm on the back tail of that part of my life, I feel I can reinsert myself as the focus of my own life, and that is why I'm doing it now.
Got it. Yeah,
so you've been traveling all over the world.
What's
your most interesting place that sticks out in your opinion?
There's so
I would
many.
ask you the place you don't like to go, but you don't answer that because you might want to go there and give a concert.
You're looking out for me, huh?
There might be a bag there.
Right. So what's your
I like that.
favorite places?
You're looking out for me. That, and to answer, I can't really think of a place I wouldn't want to go. Really, it sounds so like political, right? Correct to say it, but there's beauty in every place.
Right.
But my favorite, what I'm into right now is Spain.
Okay.
And it's so funny.
Visas, yeah, so I understand. You say have visa, you get that reaction. People like, man, haven't been there. Like,
No.
No, if you've been, you got the look.
So no, I love Spain, and I love all of Europe. Always have. Tokyo, in Asia is great. It's been a while since I've been to South America. I'm excited.
I've done Brazil.
I'm excited to get back to Brazil.
Where your uncle did it. I've been to Bahia. I walked that cobblestone street where he did that video at, and it's simply amazing now.
Yeah.
You go there now and you can see where he shot the video at.
Yeah, it's
and
cool.
The history of it, and they had to get so much security. They said because everyone's going crazy. He shot that video, I think, in one take.
Yeah.
In one take on the streets of Bahia. So I'll go to Sao Paulo and Bahia. Rio is cool. It's very Euro. But by here, you go there just for the history, and then they tell you about your uncle.
That's cool.
The video,
That's cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of places. There's even Australia I've never been. So that's a spot I got to get to this time.
Oh, and they love R&B, hip-hop.
Yeah,
so,
and it was one of our bigger markets, and same with Philippines. And we never went. I've never been, but those markets were so big for us, and that's something that I'm going to make sure I do this time around is get to there because, life is precious, life is short.
Right.
And I think a lot of times us Americans, we fall into the trap of thinking this is life, this is the world.
So you go outside of the country.
You got to travel. You got to get outside. You got to get your passport. You really do. Make that your goal in 2020. Get to one country, and go see it. And I think if you can get to that first country, you'll understand what the point I'm making, and you'll get to many more.
No, I totally feel you. In college, I got to go to my first time out of the country, and then I made it a point at least once a year. Put a little bread aside, even if just out the country is Mexico.
That's
it. One time.
That's it. That's it.
Sometimes you get to make it all the way to South America, Africa. Sometimes hey, I only got Mexico money right now.
To me, honestly, that's probably the best education or you can do. Is travel, see different people, see different cultures, taste different food, see different clothes, hear different music. It will change your perspective and make your entire life that much more grand. Whatever it is you are you are. If you're, a construction worker, accountant, whatever it is you want to be, I truly believe if you travel and see different cultures, you'll be that much better.
Right.
I really believe that.
Yeah. Question.
Yes.
As we kind of get close to wrapping up or look to wrap up, my question, when I hear your voice, I start thinking, I'm a hip hop guy, first and foremost. So I start thinking of all the people you could either be featured with or could feature on. Like just being in the pocket of like, man, his voice is really like would match well with this artist. Like, are there any artists that any rappers that you are either like maybe having the tuck on, you probably whether you want to debut something right here for us, or people that you wanted to you ideally would love to work with?
There are a couple that I think incredibly highly of that are current, like that are doing their thing now. One is Kendrick. I think Kendrick Lamar is amazing. What I love about him, I saw him in the studio, and his passion to be great, was reminiscent of my uncle. And what was cool to me was that I've been in the studio with a lot of artists, and it was rare for me to find that artist who was so passionate about their music. And not only they're passionate, but excited for being different and making some type of change beyond music. And I'll never forget, To Pimp a Butterfly was the album. He played a couple songs for me and my cousin when we went to the studio. And he I don't know if I should be saying this, but he was just in sweats and just real chill. And he, like I said, his passion to be great was reminiscent for me to my uncle. So I respect that, and I like that, and I appreciate that. So he would be at the top of that list.
If you go on.
Yeah. And
I could see a TJ Kendrick song where you come in, especially like because he has such unconventional song structure on so many of his hits. Like you could just come in and sing a nice little interlude or something like you.
And here's my thing.
You'd be right in pocket.
This is something I got to get better at. Here's another thing that being a Jackson that I just thought of, and I'm going to tell you guys for the first time. One of the things that being a Jackson does, I've seen so many people ask favors to my family that I'm so sensitive to asking anyone for anything, or even approaching people for anything. That's just not the way I'm built. So even though, whether it's Kendrick or another solid rapper may want to do something with me, it just doesn't come natural for me to approach that.
All right, so you hear this. This is going out to the interwebs. Put this on. Like, we'll cut this one little piece to say that if you're hot and you really doing your thing and you need amazing R&B voice, legendary, you trying to take your song from here to here,
another level,
to another level.
Right.
We talking Australia, Philippines, not just LA and Utah.
Utah with a shout out. I like that.
love Utah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could be number one in the Philippines. TJ's not gonna ask, but he's willing to work.
That's it. And that's a good point because I don't care about the success level. I really don't. As long as the song sounds right and has a solid message or is cool, I don't care. I'm now in a phase, I don't need it for any other reason but to do great art.
And do good music.
And do good music and to make people, the listeners, bring some type of emotion to them. That's what excites me the most. So, and that can come from anywhere. That really can.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. I feel like we got some exclusives.
Yeah, you did. You did. I like it.
I appreciate it. I gotta make sure I definitely get you into the museum tomorrow. But no. So we want to wrap up with this question we ask all of our guests.
Yes.
I think we got the answer. We got one.
But hip politics. I mean, something that's barbershop tried and true.
Yeah.
Something we argue with all of our friends. I mean, hell, Chris Rock made a movie about it. I need your top 5, dead or alive, hip hop artists. Top 5. You don't have to you don't have to have it in order, and we're not going to critique you unless you say something real crazy.
Yeah, okay. You want to know? You're not going to critique me of what?
Unless it's something, unless you just say, I'm like Vanilla Ice is up there. Then I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say something for the culture. Like, hold up.
That's not going to work. So
no, that won't work.
Okay.
Vanilla Ice won't work.
He wasn't on the list anyway,
okay.
so don't worry about that. But I got you.
Who is your top 5? You can explain why. You can just give me 5 names.
Right.
Will also, just as a caveat, because after asking this, Outkast does count as one person.
Okay.
But you can move them apart
Everyone.
and just say Big Boy, just say Andre 3000.
Not Big Boy.
Wu-Tang I feel a little weird about saying because that's way too many. But if you got a duo and you want to like UGK or something like they're your top 5, I'll let that slide. But your top 5, TJ Jackson, go.
Okay, so my top 5, I'm gonna go with who I think is actually my number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Biggie. I think Biggie's amazing. So, and I've said this before, so I don't think it's much of a surprise. But the way he flows, and I just think he brought it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no arguments there.
Okay, so Biggie's 1. I just mentioned Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kendrick's on top of the game. I think he's been there for a while, and I think he'll be there for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely on that list. So Kendrick Lamar. Another current rapper I love is J. Cole. So J. Cole is on that list. I think he flows well, and I respect what he does, not only as a rapper but also as a producer. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. Now, this is where
3.
That's 3. This is where it gets a little dicey, more difficult.
Hey, hold on. It's not. This your list. Don't forget all that stuff I said earlier. This your list. It's not dicey. Go for it.
Okay.
What's the last 2?
Last 2. Okay, this one may surprise people. Okay, this one may surprise people. But since you said a group will count, I got to go with NWA.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I like 4 or 5 people. No,
yeah,
okay,
but
I'll let you go. But if you say NWA, that doesn't mean you get all the Ice Cube's catalog and all the.
I don't get all that.
You don't get all that.
Okay, no. So you know what? But I remember being on the school bus going to school trips and listening to NWA when we weren't supposed to.
Right.
And and again, I'm big on message and what they kind of stood for, and what to me they started or played a big role. They didn't start it obviously, but they played a really big role on making it mainstream. And not just one song. It was a group that people
they put
were
gangster
mainstream.
rap on the map.
Yeah. So
and then just rap in general.
Right.
So and then for sure. So and then I think number 5. This one's tough. This one's tough.
We got Kendrick, we got J. Cole, we got Biggie, we got NWA.
Yeah, that's solid so far.
That's a solid 4. Like you won't get a lot of pushback, but I mean,
this one's
for
so
me
tough.
there's a glaring omission.
I
but
know.
That's me.
I know,
this you. You grew up in L.A. You grew up in Cali,
and I know who that omission is. And the thing is, I think he's 6 for me.
Okay.
But I think
so
5.
I want to know who this 5 is.
I think 5's for me.
No, this is for you, man. This is TJ Jackson's.
Jay-Z.
Oh, that's what I thought we was talking about.
Oh no, I was talking about Tupac as the admission.
No.
But Tupac, we try to claim Tupac out here.
Yeah, because he went to Baltimore.
Yeah. I'm from Detroit. I'm in the middle. I don't care.
Yeah,
I was, but
and it's just the blueprint that time period was I was big. That was big for me. So I would say Jay-Z's number 5, and his longevity. And
shout out Hov 50.
And here's the thing, because in my opinion, he would have a lot more popular songs right now still if that was his focus. His focus has turned to the business side, and I respect that. As a business person myself, I respect that. So I think some people may knock him down a couple levels because of that decision. They don't realize it's because of that decision. They just think he stopped or he fell off. But in my opinion, he made a conscious decision to take over kind of a more important route for our people, and I respect that. So he's
a platform builder at this point.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Liquor, music, entertainment, Rock Nation, he still will drop a bar.
Exactly, right?
He still will drop bars. Like he had one of the hottest bars, one of the hottest features of last year. Well, on that Meek Mill What's Free.
Yeah.
Like that might have been one of the hottest features of the year. And at 48, he dropped it.
So, with that said, that's why I feel Jay-Z rounds up the top 5.
Okay.
And then that's not really in any particular order, except I can say number 1 for me is Biggie. Just if I'm going to listen to some hip-hop, Biggie's pretty tough for me not to listen to. But the other 4 may be rearranged in order.
And Tupac coming off the bench.
And Tupac off the bench.
Okay.
Yeah. California Love can hit. So, that's a nice one.
All right. Mike, you have any last things?
No, I just want to say one thing. I'm from Detroit, as I mentioned, and your family brought so much to the city with Motown and things like that. So I came out the womb knowing about the Jacksons, this and that. It was just so funny. I was listening. I played YouTube. You can just put in any type of title in any type of music, and I was playing some of the old Jackson 5 things just the other day before we knew I was going to, and just. I just appreciate what you all brought, the energy you brought to Detroit back then, and what you all are doing now. So just welcome, man.
Thank you, man. And I love how you say you all. I wasn't even born, but I appreciate that, and it is my family, and as I gotten older, I've realized what they've done, and what they've done not only for me as a family, but for our people. And I'm so proud to be a Jackson, and again, not just thinking here in the States, but globally, and the role that they played in helping our people get to different spots globally has been awesome. So I appreciate you saying that, and they deserve all the praise. It's I'm here, in my opinion, because of them, and I don't. It ain't me, maybe a bit.
You talented.
But my family is something that I completely respect and again and look up to.
And I would just say, in closing into that point, when he says you all or he says your family brings the joy, like you're kind of not bookend because it's still going. But when I listen to your songs. It's like, it's definitely you. It doesn't sound like anybody else I've heard in the Jacksons, but it's like, this is still such good music that I need right now. And so a whole new wave, especially because you're doing R&B and soul and like the state of R&B and where it is in popular culture and people needing more. We need more R&B.
Yes,
I think we need more love and soul music. We need more. I'm still, a lot of my, when me and my girlfriend get together, a lot of those songs are still 15 years old. So I need some new joints. And so like that legacy is. I look at it now. It's like you just extended it an extra 10 years. So you kind of look at like, hey, stuff from when they were little to now. I can just. It's like it's a Jackson spectrum, and you having your own lane in there. You actually having 2 lanes in there from your group days to now.
Yeah.
Like. I know it probably gets a lot. You hear it all the time about your family, but that legacy, it just opens me up even more to the music. Like the music is good, but it's like, wow, now it's really good because it makes me. I'm connected to all that came before.
It's cool that you say that, and I hear that exact thing every day. Whether it's on Instagram, whether it's people telling me on the street, that same exact thing, and that's a special thing for me. Not many artists can say they're part of. It's like being part of a tradition. Like if I'm a Yankee, you go back. So that's something that I'm privileged to have. I don't take it for granted. I'm grateful for it. But another thing I want to say, we do need R&B. We need that love back. And I think that's another thing that's missing in today's world is that R&B. And if I went with a different, a major label, they would have pushed me to be a certain way, and that wasn't what I was interested in. I wanted to do that R&B, and bring that love and that soul and that artistic side of music back.
No, and when I heard specifically, I don't deserve this. Like, listen, I listened to it a few times, and it just getting ready for work this morning. And it just made, as I'm getting ready, just had it on repeat on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, in the sense of, I don't need to always be jumping around. Right? I don't need to be this. Yeah. And I don't need to be, like, ultra explicit with my R&B, like, booty, like, overly sex. Like, give me some innuendo.
You know
what happened to that? What happened to a few metaphors about figure it out and know, like, what happened to that? And it's like something that if my kids walk in, they can hear it, but they don't know what they listening to, but they just hear the melodies and the sound. Like, the beat was cool. Like, I really, like, Thank you.
Well,
And keep.
thank you. I
We
appreciate
can't
that.
wait for this EP. We
Cool,
can't wait
right.
for this album.
Cool. I'm
Like
excited
R&B
to share
is
it.
R&B. I don't want to say R&B went anywhere because it didn't go anywhere. But R&B that I love, like you representing that, and so I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I just we appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk to us, to chop it up, to give us some exclusives.
Yeah, I did.
While
You
y'all
here
here in
first.
DC, so now you got two. Whenever you touch back down in the DMV, you've got two. You got two Sherpas.
Cool, man.
If we
I
can ever,
appreciate it. I like that.
if we can ever help you in anything
I like
moving
that.
forward, just let us know. We appreciate it. Mike, did you have any closing words? Where you at this week? Anywhere?
Man, we got this impeachment thing at work today for this weekend. That's about it. I just got back from Atlanta from visiting with family for Thanksgiving. I'm just glad to be back in the DMV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got the holiday season,
Holiday
Thanksgiving,
season.
Christmas, and impeachment all in one.
Impeachment.
Impeachment for dessert. But so to all of our fans out there, thank you for another episode. This is part of season 2. You're just making us bigger and better. Make sure you can follow us at the Hip Politics Podcast on all social platforms. Also, Hip Politics News. We just launched the Hip Politics, finally the Hip Politics organizational website. We're going to be announcing a couple big events with the next presidential election. So just be on the lookout on our pages. You can follow me at Mr. Cameron Calvin on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can follow Mike at DC Noop 90.
Very good.
And if you wonder why that is, just watch the video version of this and you will see the super Phi Nu Pi sweater you got on.
Right.
But
Appreciate it.
no, thank you to everybody, to all our listeners. This has been another amazing episode. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us, being part of the Politics fam. And with that, we are out. Peace.
Peace.
Hip politics, baby.